I was at your boy Rico from Street Scores. The Washington football team has officially released its first unofficial depth chart of training camp heading into the first preseason game this Thursday against the New England Patriots. Ron Rivera already said they're going to actually play the starters. Don't know exactly how long they will, but starters will be out there. Chase Young, Ryan Fitzpatrick, all of those guys will be out there for at least a certain amount of time. And again, they released the unofficial depth chart today. We're going to look at it, analyze everything going down with it. Any surprises? This can give us a strong inclination on who's going to make the team or not, and who's going to have an immediate impact for the team, especially out of the rookies. Who has made a name for themselves early, who has not yet? We'll see. I mean, guys like Sammis Reyes going to make the team. What's going on with this receiving core? Is Jamin Davis ready to play Mike linebacker? A lot of that and more. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I'm going to show y'all their unofficial depth chart, but I'm also going to give my opinions on it as well. Also, make sure you check out the rest of the channel. All of my videos are organized in playlists. I even have a funny playlist for all of my funny videos as well. Again, make sure you check out the rest of the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscription button. Without further ado, let's get it. All right, what everybody's here for, man. Let's get it, man. So starting with the offense, first up, you have Terry McLaurin, Adam Humphries, and Curtis Samuel as your three starting receivers. Behind them, you have De'Ami Brown right behind Terry McLaurin on the outside, Steven Sims Jr. behind Adam Humphries, and then Cam Sims behind Curtis Samuel as the other outside receiver. And then sadly for me, Isaiah Wright is third, DeAndre Carter's third, Antonio Gandy-Golden third, and then my boys Kelvin Harmon and Dax Milne are fourth in the depth charts. I mean, it's ugly for them right now. It's really ugly for two of my favorites, Dax Milne and Kelvin Harmon, but we'll see how this goes throughout the rest of training camp. But as of right now, that's what it's looking like. Then moving on to offensive line, your starters are Charles Leno Jr. at left tackle, Wes Schweitzer at left guard, Chase Roulier at center, Brandon Sheriff at right guard, and Samuel Cosmi at right tackle. That's great news to hear about Samuel Cosmi. The fact that he's ready to step up and basically start at right tackle week 1 is amazing, because he's one of these high potential, low floor guys where he's a ball of clay. You just got to mold him. Freak athlete. One of the most athletic tackles to ever hit the NFL since the 1980s. And so the fact that he's ahead of schedule, because we assumed that he wouldn't be starting week 1 with how raw he was, especially with his hand placement and little technical things like that. But he's already caught up. We've already seen, since we've been having padded practices in training camp now, he's able to keep up with Chase Young and Montez Sweat at times, and it's only going to get easier from there. If you can block Chase Young and Montez Sweat, you can literally block anybody in the NFL. So I think he's going to end up being a really good tackle. I think he's going to be a potential Pro Bowler. Maybe not this season, but I think he's going to hold it down this year and potentially become a great right tackle, maybe even potentially a left tackle, make that move over there if we have a hole there in the future with Charles Leno not staying long term. Who knows? But again, it's just great news to hear that Samuel Cosmi is out there looking really good, because early on he was getting bullied, but that was before the pads, and he was also only starting at right tackle because Cornelius Lucas was out due to COVID. But Samuel Cosmi took advantage of all of that time that Cornelius Lucas was out, and look where he's at, starting right tackle as of right now. Then the backups, you have Cornelius Lucas, great swing tackle to have. He held it down at left tackle. He was a pretty solid starting left tackle in the NFL last year. So for him to be a backup, he's got to be the best backup tackle in the NFL. Eric Flowers, that's also great depth to have. If he's your backup guard, he's also another top backup guard in the NFL. Our depth is crazy. Then Tyler Larson, backup center. I've been hearing reports over and over again that they like Tyler Larson more than Keith Ishmael, so I'm not surprised. Then Sadiq Charles is the backup right guard and right tackle. Love to hear that. That's that versatility. He's coming along. He's been able to stay healthy, and he's starting to show a little bit of that talent. Because Sadiq Charles is honestly one of the most naturally talented offensive linemen on this entire team. Once he's able to put it all together, he's going to be a problem. Moving on to the tight ends, you have Logan Thomas, number 1, of course, but then, like we've been talking about the past couple of days, Tamarick Hemingway looks like the second best tight end on this team right now. because John Bates is looking really good as well, and he has the sign of approval from great tight ends like Chris Cooley, Zach Ertz, and guys like that. So I think he's going to be great too. And I don't even necessarily think this is an indictment on John Bates and how bad he's been, because John Bates has had a really good camp as well. It's just Tamarick Hemingway has suddenly become like the next Logan Thomas out of nowhere type of guy. He's a really good receiving tight end already, better receiving tight end than John Bates, who's a pretty good receiving tight end. He's also dual threat as well. Again, don't want to take anything away from John Bates. This is just more of a testament to how great Tamarick Hemingway has been. He's a better receiving tight end than John Bates right now. John Bates is the better inline blocker, but Tamarick Hemingway is the better move blocker, where you have to get to the second level to block linebackers, safeties, corners, and things like that. So whatever you need, you got it on this roster. We went from last year having, arguably no good tight ends with us hoping Logan Thomas would work out, to now we have a potentially top 7 tight end in Logan Thomas. Tamarick Hemingway and John Bates are not far behind. So we went from 0 good tight ends at this time last year to 3. I'm excited. And then Sammis Reyes is on the outside looking in. But now that he's finally back healthy, if he's able to look good enough, they may keep him on the roster some weird way and just take away a roster spot from somewhere else. Maybe like quarterback, because right now Kyle Allen isn't even healthy enough to practice. Steven Montez throws an interception at the end of almost every practice we have. And so they may just go with Ryan Fitzpatrick, Taylor Heineke, have Kyle Allen on the practice squad because you don't have to worry about somebody coming and get him. And then maybe Logan Thomas is your emergency quarterback. You know what I'm saying? That may be a way to keep Sammis Reyes on the roster. But at the end of the day, maybe they just go ahead and put him on the injury reserve so that he can stay on the roster, develop for some time, and then whenever he's ready, he can come back. Because again, his injury is nowhere near that bad, but maybe they pull that move just to keep him on the team and not allow anybody else to get him. Even though, at this point, he came back healthy, so I doubt that'll happen. But man, we got to figure out a way to keep him on this team, because he's already ahead of schedule. He's just not caught up to these 3 guys. That's his problem. And then quarterback, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick's number 1. Like multiple reports have said from a lot of people from training camp, that is Ryan Fitzpatrick is alone at the top, starting QB easily week 1. We already know what we got. Right now it's between Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen who's going to be the backup. Like, Taylor Heineke has more competition with Kyle Allen for the backup than starting competition with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's that big of a gap between Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heineke right now. Taylor Heineke just hasn't had a great camp. He's had great moments, but overall Ryan Fitzpatrick has easily by far had the best camp, the most consistent camp. He just looks like the better quarterback. Taylor Heineke is just not a good practice quarterback. That's why he's never been able to really stick onto a roster in the XFL and his journey around the NFL. He's just one of those guys you got to put him in a game and let him ball out. But at the same time, if you're Ron Rivera, you just can't put this team in the hands of somebody that's balled out for 5 quarters. Even though he looked great in those 5 quarters, with the way he looks in practice, it's going to be really hard to convince people, yeah, I went with Taylor Heineke because of those 5 quarters, even though Ryan Fitzpatrick has looked way better than him so far in the offseason. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that would be really hard to pull off, even just politically. And then, of course, running back, you have Antonio Gibson first, J.D. McKissick second. That's obvious. But then you have Peyton Barber third, Lamar Miller fourth. And then my boy Jared Patterson is so far off to the side, you can't even see him on the screen. And I feel like that's going to change. I feel like after these preseason games, Jared Patterson is going to make himself known. I think he's going to be second to only Antonio Gibson as far as well-rounded backs. J.D. McKissick has a permanent spot on this team. He's literally what we hope Chris Thompson would ever be. Actually, you could arguably even say even better than that. And he's healthy all of the time. Very dependable. So he has a niche on this team as a third down back, a huge trash talker, one of the very few guys that's willing to go forehead to forehead with Montez Sweat and Chase Young, along with Tamarick Hemingway. Both of them are giving the defense the business. Doesn't matter what's going on. They will talk their trash to Chase Young and Montez Sweat no matter what's going down. I love it. But then after that, I think Jared Patterson will emerge, especially during these preseason games when they give him a lot of carries, as the better back between him, Lamar Miller, and Peyton Barber. Then moving on to the defense, of course, you have Chase Young and Montez Sweat starting at defensive ends. Then you have James Smith-Williams and Casey Tillhill as the backups. I'm surprised because William Bradley King has been having a great camp. I love what I've seen in Shaka Toney, and I want him to move to Sam linebacker, outside linebacker at some point. But as of right now, I mean, he's even been making plays off the edge, beating our offensive linemen and getting to the quarterback in training camp. So I'm a little surprised by that. And then defensive tackles, of course, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Tim Settle, Matt Ioannidis, of course. And then you have Devarro Lawrence, David Bada, and Gabe Wright behind them. And Devarro Lawrence has actually been making some plays too, so that's pretty solid depth right there. Our defensive line, going into the draft, we were a little bit worried about the depth behind Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I feel like we're in great hands now. Then the linebackers, most notable, you have Jamin Davis starting at Mike linebacker. Now, if Jon Bostic isn't starting at Mike linebacker, I don't think he starts. He's not athletic enough. He's not a great coverage guy. He's not the best tackler. He's literally just here to be the quarterback of the defense, instincts, calling plays for the defense, getting everybody where they need to be. So if he's not the Mike linebacker calling plays, I really don't see him starting. So this is a weird, I don't think this situation would ever really happen. Either John Bates starts at Mike linebacker or he doesn't start at all, in my opinion. But as of right now, you have Cole Holcomb, more than likely the Sam linebacker if it's these three out there. Jamin Davis is the Mike, and Jon Bostic as your other outside linebacker, I guess will linebacker by default. Jared Norris, interesting that he's second, because he's more of just a special teams guy. Khaleke Hudson behind Jamin Davis, I'm surprised about that as well, because I feel like he's better suited to play the will linebacker, but I don't know. I guess they just didn't put too much thought into this depth chart. David Mayo is probably your best run stopper, at least most consistent run stopper out of our entire linebacker core, but he's just so bad in coverage. That's why he's this far back. Again, I want Shaka Toney to move down here and be the backup Sam linebacker to Cole Holcomb, but we'll see. Also want Khaleke Hudson to be the starting will linebacker, and Jon Bostic moves to the backup Mike linebacker if Jamin Davis is ready to hold down that starting Mike linebacker role. And again, it's not even like how athletic he is, it's not how great of a tackler he is. I mean, all of that stuff matters, but the main point as to why he may or may not start at Mike linebacker for week 1 for us off the rip is because of his instincts and his ability to call the plays for the defense, to be the quarterback of the defense like Jon Bostic. Then at cornerback, Benjamin St-Juste has not dethroned Kendall Fuller just yet, but he's right behind him. You have William Jackson, of course, on the outside, Jimmy Moreland behind him. They don't break this up by outside and slot corner, which is really interesting. So I wish they would have done that so we could have seen exactly, like, is Jimmy Moreland the starting slot while Kendall Fuller is the starting outside, which makes Benjamin St-Juste the backup outside instead of the starting slot over Jimmy Moreland. You know what I'm saying? It gets really complicated. It's also really interesting that Troy Apke is not only a corner, but he's above Torrey McTyer, who's been making play after play in training camp the past couple of days. And then Daryl Roberts, who's probably the most experienced guy in this backfield as far as playing every position a lot. I mean, he's literally had seasons where he started the majority of the season at slot. The majority of the season, he started outside corner. Again, another season at strong safety, another season at free safety. I mean, he's literally done it all. And the fact that Danny Johnson's ahead of him, maybe because of his special teams ability to return as a nice backup returner, I guess, but that's really interesting. It's a really interesting look right there. And then the safety position is crazy because you have Landon Collins starting at strong safety. There's a lot of reports that Landon Collins literally looks the best he's ever looked since we've signed him. Like, he looks like his old all-pro giant self right now. He looks that good out there. And then they've been putting Cameron Curl out there with them at a free safety position. We'll see how long that lasts. I'm not too sure about that because I don't necessarily love Cameron Curl's range. And I just love him doing everything else. He can cover tight ends. He can cover running backs. He can cover slot receivers. He can run cover 2, cover 3, cover 4 well. But free safety, like as a running a cover 1, like single high, that's literally Bobby McCain's job. He's the best at it on this team as of right now. Jeremy Reeves has potential, but he's not there yet. But yeah, man, Landon Collins and Cameron Curl, it seems like they're going to be on the field together a lot. I'm guessing that our corners can lock down so well that we don't necessarily need a free safety starting, and we'll just bring in Bobby McCain when we do need one. Then DeShazer Everett is the backup behind Landon Collins for strong safety. Derek Forrest is having a really good camp. Nice rookie impact. I'm assuming he probably will make the team at least for special teams as of right now. And Jeremy Reeves is your developmental free safety. Him and Cameron Curl have great chemistry together. Cameron Curl, strong safety. Jeremy Reeves, a free safety. Towards the end of last season, that started to look like a pretty nice combination. And then special teams, we already know Tressway starting punter, Dustin Hopkins starting kicker. Of course, Tressway is the holder. The punter is always the holder for kicks. Long snapper Cameron Cheeseman, he looked really bad in that Friday night practice at FedEx Field, but there's been reports that he's actually looked really good and has been very consistent throughout training camp. He just had an off night that night. But I mean, the worst time to have it is when you're actually on the field you're going to play on. We need to make sure you can do it on FedEx Field. Doesn't matter how much you can do it in Ashburn. You have to be able to do it in Maryland and opposing stadiums as well, of course. But then your starting kick returners are Danny Johnson and Steven Sims, and then your starting punt returners DeAndre Carter and Steven Sims with Isaiah Wright as the backup. That's really weird because your kick returners, your starters, because it's usually two of them, Danny Johnson and Steven Sims. But somehow DeAndre Carter, who's not even in the running for kick returner, is your starting punt returner. I don't know how that's going to work out. I guess that's just how they're going to test everybody against New England. Kick returns, they're going to have these two out there. Punt returns, they're going to have DeAndre Carter out there to see what he can do. But that's kind of weird because normally your starting punt returner is one of your starting kick returners. But again, I think this is just an experiment to just try stuff. And that may be how it's going down with the Mike linebacker, just the overall linebacker situation. They just want to start Jamin Davis and Mike linebacker to see how he plays against the New England Patriots this Thursday. If it doesn't work out, then he's going to end up just being your starting Mike, and John Bostic moves back to the wheel because, again, John Bostic can't start anywhere in this defense except for Mike linebacker. He's not good enough in coverage. He's not a great enough block shedder or run stopper. He's literally just there to be the quarterback of the defense, the brain of the defense. You got to have Jamin Davis as your speed, Cole Holcomb as your muscle. I just don't see this exact trio playing this way ever like being a real thing in the regular season. And again, I think Benjamin St-Juste is going to get a lot of PT early on, even if he technically doesn't start snap one. I think even week one he's going to play a lot of outside corner, especially against bigger receivers and tight ends and things like that. And then we'll see, man. Kendall Fuller, I mean, that's going to make it really hard because if Benjamin St-Juste and William Jackson are starting the outside, and then Kendall Fuller, with how good he is in the slot, one of the premier slot corners in the NFL, that automatically takes away a linebacker. So that leaves just Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb out there. And then that's still only two spots for the safeties. But then you only have Landon Collins and Cameron Curl out there. Where's the range? You know what I'm saying? It's going to be really interesting how Jack Del Rio splits up all of these responsibilities and who's on the field together at what time. It's going to be a lot of mixed in coverages. That's why I love the versatility, because any opponent quarterback that we go against will not know exactly who's doing what on any given play. And with the pressure that this defensive line is going to get consistently, that's just going to equal a lot of turnovers amongst this group, including the linebackers. I can't wait. This is going to be a really exciting season. Our defense is really going to go out there and make a strong case for why they are the #1 defense in the NFL. And now we finally have an explosive offense to keep them off the field and put up points. One of my biggest problems with this team, even last year, with as great as our defense was, our offense was so bad that we were playing from behind all of the time, so teams were running the ball against us. Now we have an offense that's going to at least put up points. Even if we don't win time of possession, they're going to at least put up a lot of points. They're going to throw a lot of touchdowns along with a lot of interceptions because we have Ryan Fitzpatrick as our starting quarterback. But at least when it's the third quarter, teams aren't going to have enough of a lead on us to where they can just run the ball all game. If we go into the third quarter up on teams by like 10, 14 points, they're going to be forced to pass the ball. And that's when this defensive line, this defense in total, will be at their best. I mean, if Chase Young could just pin his ears back and go to the quarterback play after play after play and not even have to worry about stopping the run, you know how deadly this defensive line is going to be and how much pressure they're going to accumulate? I can't wait, man. We're going to have some all-time sack numbers this year as a total team. Maybe not individually, but as a total team, we're definitely going to be top 3 in sacks again, not just because our defense is really talented, but also because our offense is finally going to put up points and we're not going to play from behind all game, and opposing offenses aren't just going to be able to run the ball and be balanced against us. There's going to be some third quarters when we walk out with the lead and teams are going to throw the ball against us, and that's the best situation for our defense to thrive in right there. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. That's the end of this depth chart breakdown. This is the first unofficial one. They're going to come out with more before we get to the regular season, and then they're going to come out with their final one heading into week 1 against the Chargers. I'm going to show y'all, break down and analyze each and every one of them, so stay tuned for that. Also, of course, I appreciate the view. If you learn anything, if you like this video, please leave a like on the way out. Also, like I said in the intro, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release videos just like this one, I'm still working on rookie film sessions, trying to get as many of those out there to y'all before the regular season even starts. And man, as always, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Big shouts out to everybody that donates to the channel. A big shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate all y'all. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.